Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam. Welcome back to our discussion on 9th Thirumurai, 4th Thirupadigam. This is also written by Thirumaaligai Thevar, and before we start with the discussion, I would like to give a small disclaimer because this particular padigam is a little bit tricky when we are trying to translate it. If we don't understand it properly or if we don't interpret it properly, it would sound as if we are intimidating the others or we are belittling the others, which is not the intention of any of our saints. Which saint will try to belittle others, right? Because then they won't be considered as a saint. As a saint, Siddhar we call it, as a saint, his objective is to ensure that he is making us or guiding us in the right path and making sure that we don't deviate from the path that we are in. Because of that, he sometimes uses a little bit harsh words. The harsh words are only there to guide us in the proper path and not to intimidate anyone else. That is the first understanding we need to have while we are going through this. While we were talking about Unmai Vilakkam itself, we knew the souls that we are able to see in this world, we could classify them under three categorizations. One is the soul which has got only one entanglement called as Vijnanagalar, two entanglements called as Pralayagalar, and people like us, three entanglements like Anavam, Kanmam and Maya. The three entanglements we are called as Sagalar. So we know human beings or the souls can be taken under these three categorizations. Now you look at Sagalar itself, as in people like us, everyone around us, there are so many different ways how you deal with people. Certain people believe in God, certain people don't believe in God, certain people are totally surrendering themselves to God and they don't think about anything else other than God. So are we all considered to be equal? We can't consider that as an equal, as in we can't equate everyone into one single categorization as Sagalar. So Sivanyana Mamunivar, what he did was, he said, even in Sagalar there are three categorizations, right? And he said the first categorization is called as Samusiddhar. Samusiddhar means they are already ready to be enlightened. The souls which is already ready to be enlightened and they don't care about anything else. They know everything is done because of God, His grace. Second category, people like us. We know there is someone called God, but we are trying to understand better. We are trying to get ourselves involved into it better. If not, why are we going to plan for a 1-year program for 9th Thirumurai, right? So which means we are already in the path, but we are not yet there 100% and we are trying for it. The third categorization, as in the second categorization as in where we are, is called as Vaidigar. The third categorization is called as Pragradar, which means whoever thinks Prakriti is the only standard area, as in the world that we are in, right? The five elements, the five senses, all these are the real ones. Nothing other than this exists. So they don't believe in God, they don't believe in demons, nothing. Those are called as, those kind of people are called as Pragradar. So there are three categorizations. This kind of padigam, especially this particular padigam, is not meant for Pragradar because they don't care about it. It is not for Samusiddhar also because they don't need it. So who is this particular padigam for? People like us. Because imagine we are going to a particular during a festival or something, we are going into maybe a carnival. We are walking in a carnival. Our destination is just directly in front of us, which is a beautiful temple. But along the way, when there's a nice dish that is being cooked on the one side of it, automatically our senses will attract us towards that. Or if we see some nice drama, we'll be attracted towards that. Or if you see nice colorful dressing or accessories and all these, our attention will be diverted over there. Because we get distracted very easily because we don't have the focus yet. So what should our parents do when we are getting distracted? They need to give us a slap and say, okay, walk straight. There's the temple. Our destination is the temple. This particular padigam must be taken in from that angle. The parent who's guiding us is Thirumaaligai Thevar. The slap that he is giving us is this particular Padigam, and making sure that we don't get distracted halfway, because we all know human beings are a product of this world, of the environment. Which environment you are in, we will get that influence very soon. That is why usually whenever we talk about these kind of Tirupadigam, they always keep emphasizing that we need to be among satsang. Satsang is very important to ensure that we don't get distracted or deviated halfway. So with this understanding, we need to start with this. I know it's a little bit long description that I've given, because it's important for us to read this Padigam. If not, we may get carried away with the harsh words that is being used, and we may end up misunderstanding or misinterpreting this. Remember, while we are reading this Padigam, we are not supposed to literally take word by word and use those words, because that will accumulate karma for us, because we are not yet in the Samosiddhar state, right? So that is the first understanding we need to have before we start with. Right. So let's start with the very first verse. Thiruchitrambalam. Inangilaa Eesan நேசத்திருந்த சித்தத்தினேற்கு மணங்கொள் சீத்தில்லை வாணன் மணஅடியார்கள் வன்மை குணங்களை கூறவீரில் கோரைவாய் பிண்ட பீரர் பிண்ட பிணங்களை காணா கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேய்களோடே. Thiruchitrambalam. Again, as I said, it's a beautiful verse, because we are talking about how important it is to be in a satsang, which is the devotees of Lord Shiva. The reason is, imagine, are we able to sit quietly for 5 minutes? When I say quietly, not without speaking, as in not with our, the physical speaking, but even our minds. Our mind cannot stay still for even a minute. Forget about a minute, even a half a minute we can't. Which means we are not able to sit in silence. We keep talking about something, or we keep thinking about something. If that is going to be our nature, might as well start talking about the disciples of Lord Shiva, or start thinking about the disciples of Lord Shiva. The reason being, when we start thinking or talking about the disciples, we will also be attracted towards those qualities, and there's a very slim chance we'll be deviated from this and get attracted to the worldly affairs. If we don't talk about all the disciples, what will happen? We will start attracting ourselves towards all the worldly things like car and bungalow, dresses, whatever, jewelry, whatever it is. So we get distracted easily. Instead, try to channelize our mind or rechannel our mind onto the disciples of Lord Shiva. That is what the very first verse talks about. But the way he expresses is a little bit harsh. He talks about, if someone is not ready to talk about the disciples, consider them as a dead body. The reason is, it is not the physical dead body, but emotionally they are already dead, as they don't have the emotions towards the Almighty, or towards the happiness that is going to be there forever in this world. Right? That is what the first verse is all about. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. And the second verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. எட்டுரு விரவி என்னை ஆண்டவன் ஈண்டு சோதி விட்டிலங்கலங்கள் தில்லை வேந்தனை சேர்ந்திலாத தொட்டரை தூர்த்த வார்த்தை தொழும்பரை புழம்பு பேசும் பிட்டரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேய்களோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Beautiful verse which emphasizes on one very important concept, which is, don't get distracted with variety of deities that we are able to see around us. Okay, let's take a simple example, an analogy to remember this easily, or to understand this concept easily. Imagine after I finish my high school, I decide to take up medicine, and I start my medicine education for 1 year. After a year, I change my mind and I go on with engineering. Again, after 1 year, again I change my mind and I go on to accounts. Again, 1 year I'm changing my mind and I'm going on to history, philosophy, whatever it is. End of the day, when I turn back, after 8-9 years, I haven't achieved anything. After my high school, where am I? Nowhere. I'll be lost. Which means, if I don't make up my mind on one single path, I would be lost in transit, which is a very, very natural philosophy that we are able to see. Not only that, even if I want to travel from one place to another, imagine I have to travel from Singapore to Kuala Lumpur. Either I can take a flight, or I can take a bus, or I can drive there, or I can take a train. Either ways, I have to make up my mind. If not, what will happen? I will start my journey, I'll go in a car. Halfway through, maybe the moment I cross to us, I'll be like, hey, I think I'll take a train. All the way I have to travel back to Woodlands. Now halfway after I take a train, it's like, no, I think I'll take a flight. Again I have to travel back to Changi. You imagine, I won't reach my destination on time. I won't be able to even achieve what I wanted to achieve. My objectives will be totally diluted. So I need to always be aligned with what am I going to do and what is the path I'm going to take. This is very, very important. In worldly affairs itself, we are able to see this. So we need to understand where we are heading towards and what is the objective. Now, this understanding is needed while we are going on with the verse number 2, because verse number 2 100% talks about this particular information. Focus on one deity. Focus on one omnipotent, omnipresent being. So in this, the second verse goes this way. He says, whenever you are going to surrender yourself to an Almighty, imagine he needs to be a person, or he needs to be a being which has or is part of 8 areas. That is what we call it as Ashtamurtam. So Ashtamurti means Lord Shiva, because he is part of all the 5 elements, all the way from earth, water, fire, air, space. He is also part of sun and moon. He is also part of the soul. So which means those are the 8 areas. We always call it as Ashtamurti. So Ashtamurti is Lord Shiva. We need to surrender ourselves to the Almighty, who is an Ashtamurti, so that he can safeguard us and he will help us in achieving our self-realized state. Who helps us in self-realized state is the Almighty, and he is the only one who can help us in achieving that. That is what verse number 2 talks about over here. So always keep focusing on one single God. Don't get deviated or distracted with multiple deities that we are able to see around us. Is the simple information that the saint is trying to give us as a dikshay in verse number 2. Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam, third verse. The verse goes this way, Tiruchitrambalam. அருள் திரள் செம்பொன் சோதி அம்பல தாடுகின்ற இருள் திரள் கண்ட தெம்மான் இன்பரு கண்பு செய்யாம் அரட்டரை அரட்டு பேசும் அழுக்கரை கழுக்களாய பிரட்டரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். It's a needed lesson as of today, because as of today we are able to see so many people around us calling themselves as gurus, but they are expecting something in return for giving us the spiritual experience. They say, give me so much of money, I'll give you a dikshay, or I'll give me so much of money, I'll make sure that your kundalini raises, whatever. We are able to see those kind of businessmen around us. If someone is expecting something in return, cash or kind, obviously that cannot be taken as a guru. He is only a businessman, and we can never consider them as a guru. That is the first understanding we need to have. today's verse beautifully talks about that. In this, the saint says, don't surrender yourself to such businessmen because they are not going to give you the real experience. Rather, all those that they are giving you is only a gimmick. The real experience will be given to you only by Lord Shiva or someone who has already surrendered to Lord Shiva. So what we have to do is surrender ourselves to the Almighty, who is performing the cosmic dance, the Ananda Tandava, in the place called as Thillai, is called as Chitrambalam, and he is also in the form of a bright light. We also call it as 1,000 suns together. If you can imagine the brightness, that is what Lord Shiva is going to look like. So we have to surrender to the brightness, and not only that, he is also having his throat is black in color because that is a representation for us to say, hey, all your Arnavam is represented in this, so watch out, be careful with your behavior. I want to make sure that you are properly channelized. So we have to surrender ourselves to Lord Shiva, or we have to surrender ourselves to the devotees of Lord Shiva, rather than by cheated by the businessmen that we are able to see around us today. If someone is asking or expecting cash or kind, obviously they can never be called as Guru, is what verse number 3 clearly expresses to us. Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam, the 4th verse. Beautiful verse. Let's look at the verse first. Tiruchitrambalam. துணுக்கென அயனுமாலும் தொடர்வரும் சுடராயிப்பால் அணுக்கரு கணிய செம்பொன் அம்பல தாடி கல்லா சிணுக்கரை செத்த கொத்தை சிதம்பரை சீத்தை ஊத்தை பிணுக்கரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேய்களோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Lovely verse, and it's a needed verse as of today, as of now, in this particular juncture in our life. In this padigam, in this verse rather, our saint is giving us a beautiful information. He says, you know what, once upon a time, Lord Shiva, all along, he took up the position of Annamalayar. Annamalayar means the one that we cannot go near to. This is in the form of we all know Annamalai is basically a dormant volcano. It was once upon a time fire, and that is the place where Lord Shiva is residing, and Lord Shiva is the entire mountain itself. Brahma and Vishnu were in search of Lord Shiva's head as well as his foot, but they were not able to achieve it because they went on with an attitude that they can do it. When they are able to go with this, anyone with a little bit of conscious, and they go on with a confident approach that they can do it, obviously we cannot achieve Lord Shiva's feat because Lord Shiva is full of love. But at the same time, when we approach him with 100% love, he will come to us. We don't need to go in searching him, but he will come to us, and he will be just sitting beside us itself to guide us. That is what the first 2 lines in this verse talks about. Apart from that, he's also having a very important information here. He says, those people who did not surrender will end up crying. Now we have to analyze that particular phrase a little bit deeper. Imagine if I don't believe in God, and I always feel that I am the one doing everything. One situation or the other in my life, I will get into a state where I'm not able to handle the situation, handle the stress, handle the pain, or handle even the problem that is around me. End of the day, because of this, because of my inability, I'll get into a stress, and the stress will give me a lot of physical ailment as well. How do we get rid of that? Just surrender ourselves to Lord Shiva. We do have stress. If you look at it, those people who are already into this path, don't we have stress? Obviously we do have stress, but until what point we do have the stress is until we get into our puja room, we open up our Thirumurai book, we do have our stress. But the moment we start reading our Thirumurai, all the stress will go back, we will surrender everything to Lord Shiva. Okay, enough is enough. You take care of it. You know how to do best because you are the leader and you are the one who created all these situations. So please handle it for me. I don't think I can do anything apart from this. You just surrender 100% to Lord Shiva. Start reading the Thirupathikam. Once you get out of your puja room, you will feel so much of a peace. I won't say the problem will be sorted out, but at least we will know how to handle ourselves in that stressful situation. At least you will have a peaceful sleep in the night. This is the most important one. And how can we achieve this? Only by surrendering ourselves to the Almighty. Because surrendering to a human being will again give us more trouble, but surrendering to the Almighty will solve the trouble. So what we have to do is surrender ourselves completely to the Almighty. Let Him take care of the situation, whatever is needed, and His situation, or rather His decision, will always be a long-lasting decision also. So that concludes verse number 4, Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam, and the 5th verse. The verse goes this way, Tiruchitrambalam. திசைக்குமே குலவு கீர்த்தி தில்லைக்கு துகந்து தீய நசிக்கவின் நீரதாடும் நமர்களை நணுக நாய்கள் அசிக்க ஆரியங்கள் ஓதும் நாதரை பேதவாத பிசுக்கரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பீகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is again another beautiful verse for us to get deep into our thoughts. The verse goes this way, as in Lord Shiva, the cosmic dancer, is performing his dance beyond this universe. So the dance that he is performing has no bounds. He is beyond any kind of a boundary. The disciples or the devotees, that is surrendering, if we are surrendering to Lord Shiva, it means that we are in the right path. If we are able to go one level deeper, we may be able to surrender ourselves to the devotees of Lord Shiva. So this is the basically the first 2 lines. After that is the most important point. This is very important for us to understand. We are learning Thirumurai, we are learning Siddhantam, we are learning so many things in our life. What is the purpose of learning all these? It is not to correct someone else. It is not to teach someone else. That is not our work. That is not what we were born for. We are born to get rid of our karma. We are born to make sure that we are in the right path. We are correcting ourselves from all our mistakes. Once we know a path that we have chosen is wrong, we need to know how to correct it and get along to the right path. If we are able to do that, that is the ultimate goal of learning Siddhantam and learning Thirumurai. But what is happening as of today is, the moment I learn Siddhantam, the moment I learn Thirumurai, I try to correct others as if I'm 100% perfect and the others are all making mistakes. I try to correct the others, which is again a big problem that we are facing as of today. You look at someone who's learning Siddhantam, they start correcting the others. But the ultimate goal of Siddhantam is to correct our own self. This particular verse, line number 3 and 4, gives us a very beautiful information. He says, don't try to emphasize on what you know or what you think is correct. Don't argue with someone thinking that what you perceived is right and the other's perceptions are wrong. Don't go ahead with feeding on with your ego that whatever you are talking is the right thing, or the following, the path that you have taken is the right path, which is not going to give us any kind of an improvement. And verse number 5 gives us an important lesson in our life. Whatever we are learning is to improve ourselves, not to argue with others, not to fight with others saying that whatever I know is right or whatever I have understood is right. Remember one thing, we are all learning from the same teacher. Nandiyam Peruman is our teacher. Nandiyam Peruman is teaching us And according to our karmic deeds, according to our intelligence, because our intelligence is impacted by our karmic deeds, Lord Shiva will make us understand whatever is needed for us. So the same information we are hearing, but my perception is different and your perception is different. It's because Lord Shiva wants us to understand that information in that manner. That is something we need to be very clear about when we are reading verse number 5. That is the lesson given to us. Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam, and the 6th verse. The verse goes this way, Tiruchitrambalam. ஆடர வாட ஆடும் அம்பல தமுதே என்னும் சேடர் சேவடிகள் சூடா திருவிழா உருவினாரை சாடரை சாட்கை மோட சழக்கரை பிழைக்க பிட்க பேடரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பீகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். This verse is also again comes in as a beautiful advice for us. The first 2 lines talks about the beautiful cosmic dancer, and it also says the cosmic dancer is performing his dance and all his jewelry is also dancing along with him. And you know what is his jewelry? Obviously we know it's all the snakes. He's wearing snake around his neck, around his, he is using that as a bracelet, as a necklace, as a chain, even as his belts in his hip, also as a ring in his fingers. So Lord Shiva is having snake around his body because of his dance. The snakes are also dancing along with him. Can you imagine how beautiful this is going to be? Obviously I don't think we will enjoy when he's dancing in front of us, but at least when we are imagining, visualizing, I guess we will enjoy that. And those people who have already surrendered to this kind of the cosmic dancer, we have to start singing praises of them. That is what the first 2 lines talks about. The 3rd and the 4th line gives us an important lesson. He says this is about killing other lives. We all know killing other lives is harmful for us as well as for, basically it's going to damage our body as well as our mind also. That's why vegetarianism is being advocated by most of the saints, and most of the concepts are based on the religious concepts are also based on the concept of vegetarianism. Now when you say vegetarianism, it is not only about killing other lives, but also not with only killing the other lives with our body, but also with our word as well as with our mind. Whenever we accumulate karma, it could be because of our words, because of our mind, because of our deeds. We all know killing someone with our deeds means physically doing that, right? So we are able to kill a chicken or a fish or whatever, that's actually going to accumulate karma. The second one is when we think bad of others, the ill thoughts is also going to hurt the other person or the other living beings, which is also going to be considered as a sinful deed. The third one is with our mouth, with our words. Imagine what kind of harsh words, cruel words we are uttering as of today. Those are actually killing the other person's thoughts. Other person's lives are going to be destroyed with our words, with our thoughts as well as with our deeds. Now how do we stop us in doing that? Only by surrendering ourselves to Lord Shiva, asking his help to guide us in the right path so that we don't harm the other lives or the other souls that is there in this world. Imagine when we see a hen, when we see a goat, when we see a fish, when we see a frog, when we see the plants, when we see a snake, all these are different souls. Because of their karmic deeds, they have taken that form. The form is taken because of their karma. We have taken this body because of our karma. It doesn't mean that we are superior than them. We are all equal in front of Lord Shiva's thoughts, because we are all souls. We are all equal. We don't know when we have taken a form of a snake, and we don't know next time what we are going to do or what we are going to take, what form we are going to take as well. So what we have to do is be good, do good, think good, to make us a better soul in this planet, to be a responsible citizen in this planet. Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam. And the 7th verse. The verse goes this way, Tiruchitrambalam. உருக்கியன் உள்ளத்துள்ளே ஊரலன் தேரல் மாறா திருக்குறே பருளும் தில்லை செல்வன் பால் செல்லும் செல்வில் அருக்கரை அள்ளல் வாய கள்ளரை அவிய பாவ பெருக்கரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is also coming in as an advice for us. I'm not sure if we can call this as an advice, but we have to take it as one of the diksha that's given to us. What happens in this particular, the first 2 lines here, the saint explains, whenever we are in a meditative state, we will have this particular honey or nectar that is coming out of us, because we are already in a molten state, melting because of the love we have on Lord Shiva. When we are able to melt down, when we are able to break down our ego and break down our whatever we have, the negativity we have to as of today, if we are able to break it down and we are able to surrender ourselves to Lord Shiva, it's easier for us to surrender to his disciples as well. When we are doing that, we will not go on to hell. Now this is a very abstract concept. Let's look at it in a little bit different manner. How can we say that when I fall in love with Lord Shiva, that I won't go to hell? What is the correlation between those two? It's a very logical question, right? Let's look at it in a different manner. Saivism always talks about one thing, advocates one thing, and that is all about love towards everything around us, not only mankind, but all the soul that we are able to see around us. It can be a plant, it can be a bacteria, it can be amoeba, it can be elephant, it can be dinosaur, whatever it is. We need to show love, because souls are all equal in front of Lord Shiva's eyes. So we need to share the love with all the beings that we are able to see. When we are showing or depicting this love, obviously we will not have hatred, we will not have any kind of negativity towards them, we won't feel the anger, we won't feel any kind of the resentment, and all these will not be there. When we don't have these kind of negative emotions, obviously we will resonate only with love, and we will be vibrating only positivity and positive energy. In such a situation, we will not harm others, and we will not even think about harming others. We will not even speak something that is going to hurt others. In turn, when we don't talk or think or do anything that is harming others, obviously we are not accumulating karma, which means we won't go into hell. As simple as that. So when you want to avoid going to hell, the only thing we have to do is always start resonating love towards everything around us. We should not have any kind of anger, any kind of hatred, any kind of resentment, any kind of a negative thoughts or negativity towards anyone in this world. That is the beautiful advice that is given to us in this particular phrase, verse number 7, Sivaya Nama Tiruchitrambalam, 8th verse. The verse goes this way, Tiruchitrambalam. திரவினோராயிர திரளொப்பம் தில்லை சொக்கரம் பலவரென்னும் சுருதியை கருத மாட்டா எக்கரை குண்டமிண்ட எத்தரை புத்தராதி பொக்கரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is also such a beautiful verse because it gives us an idea about how our life should be transformed from now on. In this, the first 2 lines in this verse talks about the beauty of Lord Shiva. He says Lord Shiva is in a very beautiful color, red color, And it's as if you can imagine almost 100,000 suns together, and you can imagine the brightness. That level of brightness you will be able to visualize. Again, this cannot be literally taken. It is only an analogy that is given to say that he is the brightest of the brightest among all the brightest thing in this world and this universe that we can even imagine, we can ever imagine. So Lord Shiva is so bright and so beautiful. All we have to do is surrender ourselves to him, because he is the most handsome and the macho man that you can ever imagine. He is the one performing the cosmic dance in the place called as Tillai. And what should we do? We should surrender ourselves to him and keep away from people who are negating the belief of God. The reason is, when they don't believe in God, it means they believe only in atheism. When they are an atheist and we keep talking to them, we know human beings are the product of the environment. When we keep listening to these kind of stories, we will also be deviated, distracted, and we'll be carried away with the worldly things, and there's a high possibility, high chance that we can deviate from our original intention, which is to achieve Lord Shiva's golden feet. So how do we handle this? We need to always be surrounding ourselves with all our disciples, Lord Shiva's disciples, devotees of Lord Shiva, so that whenever you think, whatever you think, whenever you're talking, whenever you're singing, whatever it is, you are only going to focus on the praises of Lord Shiva. That is what this verse number 8 talks about, to say where we should be associating ourselves with. Sivaya Nama, Tiruchitrambalam, and the 9th verse. The verse goes this way, Tiruchitrambalam. எச்சனை தலையை கொண்டு செண்டடி திடபம் ஏறி அச்சம் கொண்டமரரோட நின்ற அம்பலவர் கல்லா கச்சரை கல்லா பொல்லா கயவரை பசுநூல் கற்கும் பிச்சரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். 9th verse is a beautiful verse, again comes in as an advice. The earlier 8 verses have been talking about what kind of a place we need to reside, what kind of people we need to associate with, what kind of a thought process we need to develop, what kind of a personality we have to groom, and all these in order to sequence and also to make sure that our journey in the spiritual path is more smooth. Verse number 9 is also resonating almost similar information here, but it talks about what kind of a book we should be reading. The first 2 lines in this verse talks about something which is already seen as one of the Purana, called as the Dakshan pyre. We all know Dakshan is a father-in-law of Lord Shiva. He did not invite his own son-in-law, and he performed a ritual, and that is not considered to be the Shiv Verlvi, rather it is called as the Avaverlvi, which is basically taken as the negative form of worship. We should not encourage that. That is why Lord Shiva destroyed it, and he came in the form of he came in as Veerabhadra to destroy the entire pyre. This is a lesson for us to say, keep away whenever you are able to see or feel someone criticizing the Almighty. Now, how do we get this clarity? How do we know that our thought process is right? That is where the last 2 lines comes in place. He says, we have to start reading books which is talking or singing the praises of Lord Shiva. Rather, if we start reading books about the worldly things, as in how to become rich and how to become a good speaker, how to grow a garden, how to groom up my body, whatever, those are all not going to give us or guide us in the path of realization. If a soul needs to be realized, it needs to choose the right path. In order to choose the right path, it needs to be guided by the right guru and the right books as well. So that is what verse number 9 talks about, to say we need to choose our books prudently so that we don't stumble halfway and we are able to proceed in the right path. So that concludes verse number 9. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. 10th verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. விண்ணவர் மகுட கோடி மேடைந்தோழி மணிகள் வீசும் அண்ணலம் பலவன் கோற்ற வாசலு காசையில்லா தென்னரை தெருளா உள்ள திருளரை திட்டை முட்டை பெண்ணரை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பீகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். Today's verse is actually, we need to take an vow based on this particular verse. The first two lines, as usual, it talks about the beauty of Lord Shiva, or either it talks about the people who are visiting Shiva and all these, right? So that's the same pattern that we are able to see. Since Lord Shiva is the Deva, all the Devas are coming to worship him or to show their respect to him, and because of this they have all the crowns on their head, right? That is all, it's all in different colors and different the viscous, the shininess is too huge and too beautiful that it is really vibrant and beautiful. Now since it is all like it's vibrating so high, it's so beautiful to see all the colors in one place. And Lord Shiva is performing his cosmic dance in this kind of a place. That's the first two lines. After that, we are all used to this concept called as gossiping and rumors, right? I know how interesting it is to gossip and spread rumors and all these. The last two lines talks about or criticizes when someone is doing this action of gossiping or rumors. We are not supposed to encourage that behavior. Let's imagine a situation when I say, oh, I got addicted to this behavior of gossiping. I don't think I can stay without gossiping, without spreading rumors. Perfect, no worries. Let's take a vote today to say, I'm going to gossip only about Lord Shiva from now on. I'm not going to gossip about any human beings. I'm going to spread rumors only about Lord Shiva. I'm not going to spread rumors about any other human being. How beautiful this world will be. Right? When I start gossiping about Lord Shiva to someone else, they are also going to accumulate good karma. I'm also going to accumulate good karma. But when I talk bad things about a human being, I'm going to accumulate negative karma, and the person who's listening to it is also going to accumulate negative karma. Why do I want to do that? Right? Better if we are able to start gossiping right from this minute about Lord Shiva. I think we have really understood this particular padigam well, and we have started following the path of Thirumaaligai Thevar, and we have started the journey to achieve Lord Shiva's lotus feet. Such a beautiful verse. Let's take a vow right now to say, okay, I'm going to start gossiping only about Lord Shiva from this second onwards. Sivaya Nama Thiruchitrambalam. Welcome back to our finale verse in the 4th Thirupadigam from the 9th Thirumurai. We are going to talk about the 11th verse. The verse goes this way. Thiruchitrambalam. சிறப்புடை அடியார் தில்லை செம்பொனம் பலவர் காளாம் உரைப்புடை அடியார் கீழ் கீழ் உரைப்பர் சேவடி நீராடார் இறப்போடு பிறப்பினுக்கே இனியராய் மீண்டும் மீண்டும் பிறப்பறை காண கண்வாய் பேசாது அப்பேகளோடே. திருச்சிற்றம்பலம். This is the concluding verse for this entire Thirupadigam, and it comes with a beautiful advice, and it's a very hard advice to follow also. The reason is, when we talk about surrendering ourselves to Lord Shiva, it's easy. Surrendering to God is much easy, comparatively much easy. But when we are asked to surrender to one of his disciples, that will be the most difficult one. Our ego will not let go of that situation so easily. We will always start criticizing the situation. We'll say, why would I want to do that? He's the same as me, I'm the same as him. Whatever excuses we can come up with, but we will not let our ego sink up here. So that is the most difficult part that we will always get into. That's the beauty of this particular verse. In this, the saint says, we have to surrender ourselves to Lord Shiva. Those people who have already surrendered to Lord Shiva, we need to surrender ourselves to those people, and we need to take the sand from their feet and we have to apply that as the holy ashes. Imagine the situation. Are we able to do this? Will our ego get onto this? Will we be able to even carry on with this thought? That is the biggest question. And the next two lines in this verse says that if we are not able to do that, if we are not able to surrender to that extent and we are not able to move on, what will happen to the soul? Obviously, we will get into the vicious cycle of birth and death. We will always get into this trap of birth and death because we don't have any other choice. Our ego is so prominent that it brings us to this world once again, and we will go through the same turmoil once again. So in order to get rid of this ego, get rid of this birth and death vicious cycle, all we have to do is surrender ourselves to Lord Shiva. Not only that, surrender ourselves to the disciples of Lord Shiva. In Saivism, one of the most important concepts is not only surrendering to God is emphasized, but surrendering to the devotees of the God is also heavily emphasized, and that is the only way we can get rid of this particular birth and death vicious cycle. Lovely verse. This concludes Thirumaaligai Thevar's all 4 padigams. I'll come back again with the next saint very soon, next padigam very soon. Until then, Sivaya Nama, Thiruchitrambalam.